Landscope for inviting me to be the guest speaker today. So by means of the talk of wealth management, we'll bring out the reason why you need to diversify your portfolio in addition to financial or real estate assets in Hong Kong. It's time to look ahead, overseas, let's say London. And this is the project that James will explain to you in a little bit. So here we go. Professional wealth management and property investment. That's our agenda today. Would you like to earn $1 million more when you retire? Who doesn't? So through the discussion of MPF, which is a denominator for everyone working in Hong Kong, we shall see how professional wealth management can enhance your wealth and enrich your life. A nice retirement. Retirement deluxe. How can we upgrade from a nice retirement to a retirement deluxe? Today, I will share with you 3 magic keys: champion trustee, diversification, and star wealth manager. The power of a champion trustee. In order to explain the power of a champion trustee, I have prepared a few cases for your reference. So the study is based on this assumption. For the past 10 years' performance of selected funds, we'll project into the next 35 years with a monthly contribution of 2,500 or a total of $1 million Hong Kong. And we assume that most of you will be using HSBC as a trustee or service provider. So based on the assumption above, you're going to see a huge difference in return. Case study 1, guaranteed fund. So we have HSBC versus Fund A. The difference is Fund A has generated $1 million more for you. Case study 2, mixed asset fund. HSBC versus Fund B. In this category, you can see that Fund B has generated $2.5 million more for you. Case study 3, Hong Kong equities. HSBC versus Fund C. And this is an alarming difference. You can see that we are talking about almost 30 million in 35 years. So does a good manager make a difference? Let's look at the past 10 years' performance of HSI, in particular the Hong Kong Equity Fund. So if we look at this performance chart, you can see that Fund C has generated 620,000. With a capital of 300,000, you have a little bit more than double. And we're talking about almost 16% annualized. So if you look at HSBC, you will have just earned a little bit more than what you put in, 400,000, or an annualized return of 6.44%. Now, if we just look at the peers average, it has generated almost 500,000, or an annualized return of 9%. So, picking a good manager does make a difference. I don't think any one of us plan to work for the next 35 years. Let's look at even 25 years. You can see that the difference dramatically changed. It is $6 million. Now still, it shows you that if you pick Fund C, and let's assuming we are in our 20s or 30s, in the next 25 years, you would project or you would produce for yourself a pretty good amount of retirement funding. So you would ask me, is that really true? In the next 25 years, nobody can tell. But if you look at the past reference from 1987 to today, in the past 25 years, had you invested in HSI, let's see the difference. Right after the market crash in 1987, the market was around 1900. Yesterday, we closed at about 22,000. So that is actually more than 10 times in the past 25 years. So I would think that projecting into the next 25 years, 10 times growth, pretty doable, pretty attainable. Second magic key, diversification. So let's look at the 10-year snapshot of S&P sector returns. Different colors represent different sectors. So can anyone find one particular sector or colors repeating in the same position for the past 10 years? No. So in order to show you the difference, I have selected two different sectors: consumer discretionary and energy. What does it show you here? You can see that sometimes they move in completely different directions, and sometimes they move in sync. And what is the message? You need to not put all the eggs into one basket. You need to diversify. And the same applies to the past 10 years asset class returns. Different colors represent different asset class. Small cap, medium cap, large cap. And again, can we find one same color staying in the same position for 10 years? No. So diversification maximizes your potential gain and minimizes your loss in the long run. Third magic key, style wealth manager. You look at one right now. Gonna give myself some credit. So how do you choose your wealth manager? Credibility, expertise, strong company support, experience, and what else? Anyone want to take a random guess? Professionalism. So that comes down to professional wealth management. And what is the message? What do I mean by that? MPF reinforces the need of retirement planning by our government and the success of dollar cost averaging over the long term. Unfortunately, it only forms a very small portion of your wealth. And what do? We provide you with tailor-made solutions. It is a holistic approach to provide you with more comprehensive solutions. Examples. What do? In regard to this project today, we do property financing, state inheritance, tax efficiency planning. So by comparing a typical Hong Kong investment portfolio to an international one, you can see how different our mentality and style is. For a typical Hong Kong investor, he would have, let's say, around 70% in property. I'm sure Yuman would know more from her industry. And we have like 10% into financial assets, 10% into cash, and 10 into others. So by means of others, it includes something like antiques, paintings, sports car, fancy watches, you name it. And financial assets, it includes stocks, bonds, mutual funds, hedge funds, ETF, etc. So what is the difference with an international investor? In general, they would have about 40% into property and 40% into financial assets, 10 into cash, and 10 others. So those of you who are sitting in a lot of cash, I know many of you here have a lot of cash in the bank account, should definitely talk to me for the financial assets investments or Yuman for the real estate ones. So why do we need professional wealth management? Simple. Time is money. Why don't we work hard on making money and you work hard on making money and we make your money work even harder for you. How about a nice dinner on us? Well, there are 3 stages of wealth management. First of all, we'll talk about wealth creation, which is like an appetizer. And what is that? This is normally the stage when you first graduated or when you start working. Then you may or may not have a large sum of money. Unless you're like, some second or third generations of big wealthy families here. Otherwise, you can start from regular savings. Give us some money on a monthly basis, and we have to invest into international markets, equities, bonds, whatever. And then as time goes by, you would have built up your wealth and you have chunks and chunks of money, then you can give us lump sums to manage. And obviously you can do a combination anytime you want. So eventually we go to the main course. This is a very juicy steak. I love steak. Why do we do that? It's preservation. That is the stage when you have, let's say, married and you have children. And what would happen after that? Not that I have done it, but in general, your priorities, your preference, your objectives in life are all changed. So if they're all changing, what do you need to do? You need to talk to somebody professional and objective who can help you to realign your life or readjust your investment portfolio. And that's why we exist. The last part, that is a comparison to dessert, succession or estate planning. Why would I say that? Because that's the part when you have already, let's say, put your children to college and you have saved up enough money for retirement, and all you want to do is to enjoy life, enjoy your financial freedom. And one thing very important is that do not get distracted by food here, okay? Focus on the screen. One thing very important is that while you're enjoying your financial freedom, please follow the news, and you would notice, for example, lately that this, what's his name? Tony Chen. There's a huge lawsuit with this, what's the name? Monica Wong. So you would notice that if you do not have a trust or you did not sort out your estate planning well, it's very easy that you would get into a lot of problems and headaches. Why? Because after you go, the money doesn't know where to go. And how can we help you? Very, very simply put, you can buy some big jumbo insurance. Or if you want to be more sophisticated and take care of your whole portfolio, like real estate and your business and so on and so forth, you can set up a trust. So if MPF is the champagne from our government, ING can provide you with a full course of fine dining, or lunch for now. In addition to a nice dinner, what exactly do we do for you? Okay, this is a real example from one of my clients who just graduated and young and aggressive, want to take more risk. So I have put into this portfolio for him 20% into BlackRock Global Funds, Pacific Equity, 20% into Fidelity Indonesia, 20% into Franklin US Equities, 20% into Henderson Asia Pacific Properties, and 20% into Henderson Global Technology. So in this portfolio, you can see that in the past 1 year, he has generated about 35%, 3 years about 50, 5 years also about 50. So in the first 3 years, you can see that maybe it's just a little bit higher than the benchmark, but in the long term, his portfolio outperformed the benchmark a lot. Preservation. This is the stage for another client of mine. He's married and have children. He wants to be more conservative, but at the same time, he still needs to save up and invest and build up his retirement funding. So what do? I put 25% of his portfolio into Franklin Templeton Emerging Market Bonds, another 25% into Franklin Templeton Global Bond. Now you will see that I put 50% or half of his portfolio into bonds, which is in general a lot more low risk and still generate a reasonable return. And how do I manage to give him some returns while it is kind of safe? I put the other half into equities, Value Partners High Dividend Stocks, Franklin Templeton Emerging Market Equities, and JP Morgan ASEAN. So these other 50% are the one that hopefully can generate more alpha or returns for my client. So you can see in the past 1 year, he got about 22%, 3 years about 40, 5 years you will see on the next page. So on the first 3 years, actually the benchmark has outperformed his portfolio. But on a 5-year basis, you can see that his portfolio has outperformed the benchmark by far. we are talking about, he has generated about 65%, and the index or the benchmark is about 25. So it does work, but you need to give yourself some time. We are talking about medium-term investments here, so you got to have that kind of time frame. Wealth succession. What do we do? As I mentioned, insurance and trust. But today, what we can help you even more with your estate planning is financing. So just like buying a property, we can finance you with a big part of your premium, and with the very low interest rate environment right now, you're actually doing a large leverage. It's almost like you're paying off your premium over the next 100 years. Because say you are in your 30s right now, and it covers you until 120, so you're paying it off in the next 80 or 100 years. But if and when something happens, you get a whole huge lump sum payout. That's the leverage. That's some of our partners we work with. Okay, what about other opportunities? Arts, wines, antiques, private equities, Hong Kong properties, and overseas properties. So let's look at the Hong Kong market. In the past 15 years, from 1997 to today, we've got the best chance actually was at year 2003, when the market crashed and dropped for 70%. So it bottomed out during SARS. But the key is, did you buy? I didn't, for example. Second chance, 30% down, that is after Lehman Brothers incident, when the market crashed for 30%. But did you buy? Third chance, that's the latest one. In the beginning of this year, when the market, when the government introduced some new policies, the market dropped over 20%. But did you buy? So why is property a good investment? Now, not that we are selling properties in ING, but I have to say that as a diversification approach, it serves its own purpose pretty well. Rental income, potential capital gain in the long run, easy to pass on to the next generation. It forms part of your estate. And actually, you can even form a legacy for generations. And it's not unusual to see buildings named after certain families. So which countries should you invest now? Let's start from developing countries. China. Is the red hot property market in China bursting soon, with all the credit issues and so on? Emerging markets. Could the increasing property price in South Asian countries be affected by the instability of its region overall? Frontier markets. Would the huge political and social risk justify the potential returns for the property markets in regions like Mongolia and Myanmar? Just how much do we know about them? Developed countries, what choices do we have? Hong Kong. We are higher than the previous high, 97. US. Unstable economic growth after the recovery of the real estate market, even though sale price is rising steadily. Australia. Would depreciating Australian dollar drive up the sales of Australian property, especially for overseas buyers? UK. Obviously, I will pass the time to the expert from London, James. Conclusion, stay invested and stay diversified. Thank you very much, and I will pass the time to James Huddle from Street and Market. Thank you. The lunch is coming shortly.